I was taught in medical school that vaccines are safe and they're effective. I had no reason to believe otherwise. It wasn't until the New York State passing of the hepatitis B mandate in 1991. It struck me as kind of odd that they were mandating a vaccine for newborn babies when babies were not at risk for developing hepatitis B infection. It made me question whether or not we're doing a service to children by giving them all these vaccines and injections. There's more than just an assumption that vaccines are safe. It is pretty much regarded as law. But I don't think it's that black and white. There are many grays, and you have more and more people who are questioning it, and with good reason, because the science is not there to really state that vaccines are truly safe.
I have had so many young girls come up to me and say, "I'm so happy, I'm one less." And I said, "What do you mean you're one less?" She says, "I got Gardasil, so I'm one less cancer death." And I said, "You know, if you got your pap smears, you would never have been a cancer death." The concept that our daughters are cancer deaths waiting to happen is just not accurate. Our death rate in the United States from cervical cancer is 3 per 100,000. They have a much higher chance of being a motor vehicle accident death than they do of being a cervical cancer death.
Is South Florida's CBS 4 News.
Dr. Diane Harper is one of the world's top experts on the human papillomavirus. In fact, she's one of the leading scientists the pharmaceutical industries turn to. Speaking out for the first time on television, she expresses concerns over what she considers a rush to vaccinate.
We don't know yet what's going to happen when millions of doses of the vaccine have been given.
This issue has become so polarized. You're either pro-vaccine or you're anti-vaccine. When you take a centrist position, like the National Vaccine Information Center, you are automatically put into a category as being anti-vaccine. But the truth is that we're just trying to make vaccine policies and vaccines safer.
Every 20 minutes in this country, another child is diagnosed with autism.
All you have to do is ask the guidance counselors, the teachers, the principals, and all of them across the board will tell you that we are seeing a rise in the number of children with disabilities. That is clear. The CDC states that 1 in 110 children have autism. But autism is just one piece of a bigger problem. The bigger issue is that 1 in 6 kids in this country has some form of neurodevelopmental disability.
Autism is only one kind of brain and immune dysfunction that is associated with vaccination. Millions and millions of children now in America are chronically ill and disabled. And during this same time period, that the numbers of doses of vaccines have more than tripled that we're giving our children, we have seen this explosion of chronic disease and disability. The only thing that we oppose is forced vaccination, violation of the informed consent principle. Informed consent means that you have full information about the benefits and risks of any medical intervention that can harm you, and that you have the ability to make a voluntary decision about whether or not you're going to accept that risk. If the state can force you to put your life on the line or your child's life on the line for any medical intervention, then the state has too much power.
More than 2,000 Prince George's County students have not gotten their state-mandated shots. Tonight, an ultimatum to some of those parents: come to court, get the shots, or else.
More than 1,600 students and their parents have been ordered to appear in circuit court for the children to be immunized.
We can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way, but it's going to have to get done.
I went over there and saw the parents lining up. They had police with dogs and guns patrolling the courthouse. I thought to myself, there is something wrong with this. We shouldn't be summoning parents under threat of imprisonment and fines because they didn't get their children a hepatitis B vaccination or a chickenpox vaccination. Hepatitis B is not polio and chickenpox is not smallpox. But parents have been so conditioned to believe that every time a new vaccine comes out, that it's going to be mandated, that they haven't stood up and fought for the right to make these choices. Americans are well aware that a number of prescription drugs that have been licensed as safe have been found to be unsafe after they're used by millions of people. And yet, when it comes to vaccines, which are mandated by law, there's somehow this separation made. The vaccines couldn't possibly be the same.
The majority of vaccine research is paid for by the vaccine manufacturers themselves. So the people who are approving the vaccines are taking the word of the pharmaceutical companies.
The pharmaceutical companies have been allowed to be too present at the table at the FDA and the CDC. And I think a firewall needs to be built between those in government who are regulating, making policy for, and developing vaccines, and those pharmaceutical companies that are making profit off the sale of vaccines.
You know, it's no wonder parents are asking questions. It's because doctors that are making these policies are financially benefiting from these policies. The ACIP is the organization that approves vaccine policy for the United States. You have some doctors on that board that have a direct financial interest in these vaccines. That's a huge conflict of interest.
We in the medical profession are devoted to helping to save lives. Unfortunately, a pediatrician will often not recognize a reaction to a vaccine because they're not taught that. It's not within the training.
I never learned in medical school how vaccines were studied, what type of clinical trials they went through, how they evaluated adverse reactions, how they even evaluated effectiveness. There has been information out there since the smallpox vaccine was created, linking vaccinations to encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain, which can cause death or permanent neurological disability. I've learned recently the placebo in a vaccine trial can actually be the aluminum or the mercury or another vaccine. I would assume the placebo was normal saline, which would be like water, something not harmful. In accredited, peer-reviewed medical literature, they have linked vaccinations to chronic autoimmune problems. The science is out there. People are just choosing not to look at it.
There is some published research showing dangers of vaccinations. Why isn't it getting into the mainstream media? Because of fear. 3 of my prestigious colleagues, academics, scientists, also gave interviews discussing our concerns about vaccinations. Not a word of any of our interviews appeared in the PBS Frontline story. Instead of a scientific discussion presenting the facts, hysterical moms are presented against white coat, Ivy League academics. I'm sick and tired of this. I see children injured every day, disasters in families from vaccination injuries.
I wish that they would stop saying that we're anti-vaccine. I think that that's just a way of labeling us that makes it easy for people to dismiss us. The shows are all about, do you vaccinate or not? There's no middle ground. There's no thoughtful, let's rethink how we do this. You know, it's like black and white. Either we have to do it the way we've been doing it, or you don't do it at all.
The conversation has shifted from one looking at the broad issues concerned with vaccine safety and vaccine policies to focusing on autism. And I believe it was an error that has had serious consequences. The truth is, it's become very easy to dismiss the entire vaccine safety issue by focusing on autism and vaccines. I'm Barbara Loe Fisher, and I want to welcome you to the 4th International Public Conference on Vaccination. The theme of this conference is Show Us the Science and Give Us the Choice. Congress should be providing strong oversight on vaccine development, policymaking, and regulation in this country, and they're not. Until we have money that is committed to independent research by investigators who do not have ideological or financial conflicts of interest with either government or industry, we're not going to get the kind of science we need. It is absolutely essential that we find out before we add one more vaccine to the mandatory vaccination schedule, whether or not these vaccines are safe.